Once again, we are back for Fantasy Football in 5. Last episode was our running back drafting strategy. This episode will be our wide receiver drafting
So if you
strategy.
haven't seen the last episode, hit the big red button below. So our top 5 wide receivers this year in fantasy are Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, Odell Beckham, DeAndre Hopkins, and A.J. Green.
Now, A.J. Green, he is obviously the number one receiver out there in Cincinnati, and really there's no other receiver that is even competitive. And if you look a couple years ago, he was one of the best wide receivers in fantasy, and I think he will get back to that status this year, even though he will have more coverage on him, but expect him to just doesn't even matter.
And now with Tyler Eifert, there's more possibility for A.J. Green to have a superior season.
Exactly. All right, a couple of busts we wanted to talk about. Starting the list off, we have Sammy Watkins, then Demaryius Thomas, Golden Tate, Devontae Parker, and Nelson Aguilar.
Now, Demaryius Thomas is one of the primary busts for us this season, just because of his quarterback situation. Last year he had Peyton Manning, and Peyton Manning struggled in that offense, clearly. And now he has Mark Sanchez, Trevor Siemian, and Paxton Lynch all competing for the starting job. I mean, come on. Pick my high school team over them. Not really, they're terrible. But Demaryius Thomas will not perform adequately for your fantasy needs this season.
Another receiver to talk about would be Devontae Parker. There's a lot of hype going around for him this year, and not to be like the shutdown train on hype.
But we are.
Yeah, but come on, guys. We have seen nothing out of Devontae Parker, and Ryan Tannehill, the passer for him, is garbage, really. He's like the epitome of like
Low-end quarterbacks.
Yeah, like mediocrity. So do not expect Devontae Parker to get a lot of touchdowns or yardage. I'm seeing definitely way less than 1,000 yards. So.
All right, so some of our most draftable players this year, those guys are Allen Robinson, Jordy Nelson, Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen, Jarvis Landry, John Brown, and Sterling Shepard.
Now, we wanted to draft wide receivers in the second and third round, mainly because those are where you get the guys who are number one receivers on their team and can produce a lot of numbers without using your number one overall pick on him.
Exactly. So, take this for example. You take Amari Cooper in round 3. That's a great value pick. He and Keenan Allen both in round 3 are pretty solid value pick. And I've seen Keenan Allen fall quite a bit to round 4 and 5. So it all depends on how your draft goes. But look for those studs like Amari Cooper and Keenan Allen in rounds 3 and 4, maybe.
And the other spot you want to draft wide receiver would be round 5. Now, in our drafting strategy video, we talked about that to be your flex position. And that, we think this year should be a wide receiver because it's so much depth there. So expect guys like maybe Jarvis Landry to be there, even Doug Baldwin possibly.
Exactly, yeah.
So
we like him.
Expect those guys to be great values for a 5th round pick.
Alright, so our sleeper category for the wide receivers this year, those include guys like Kevin White, Laquan Treadwell, Michael Thomas, Travis Benjamin, Mohamed Sanu, and Sammy Coates.
Now, I want to talk about, obviously, Laquan Treadwell. I'm a Vikings fan. I really love him this year. I expect him to get a lot of touchdowns and him to be like a Calvin Johnson type of red zone threat. So expect him to get a lot of points for you.
I'm not going to follow the bias train. So at 44 in our rankings, we have Travis Benjamin of the San Diego Chargers. Now, he's a more rising sleeper now that Stevie Johnson's after the season. So Travis Benjamin is a very small receiver, but that's what Phillip Rivers loves to work with. Keenan Allen's small, Travis Benjamin's small. So I can easily see Benjamin getting over 900 yards and 7 touchdowns if he stays healthy.
One more receiver I want to talk about, though, was Michael Thomas. I watched his game against the Patriots in preseason, and he absolutely destroyed that secondary. He looked sick with, like, their third-string quarterback. So expect him to do really well with Drew Brees throwing him the ball. All right, a couple of receivers that we wanted to highlight that maybe we haven't talked about. Starting out would be Emmanuel Sanders. Now, I really like him as the main receiver for Denver this year. And we just talked about how Demaryius Thomas is going to have a bad year, and it's because of the quarterback situation. But if you look at last year, the quarterback situation was not good last year.
Right.
They had Peyton Manning, who was looking like a skeleton out there. And then you had Brock Osweiler, who was definitely not a great passer when he was out there. And Emmanuel Sanders still played amazing out there. So expect him to get good numbers even with the quarterback in decencies.
Another consistent guy is Eric Decker. He's the second string receiver for the Jets, and he was very, very consistent last year, along with Brandon Marshall. And I expect that consistency to repeat this season. He had over 1,000 yards last season, and close to double-digit touchdowns, I believe. And I expect exactly the same this season. Alright, that was Fantasy Football in 5, and thank you for watching. We live all your fantasy news in 5 minutes, just because honestly, who would want to watch a 30-minute video on this topic?
Amen.
So this video was our wide receiver drafting strategy video. Next video will be the tight end, so stay with us and don't forget to subscribe.